My stepmother informed my father that I was planning on ending all contact with him. Convinced by her fabrications, he transferred ownership of the family property to her children. Once she moved in, she discovered this information recorded in the property papers. I never imagined I would be sharing this with anyone, but I need to talk about what's happening. My family has always been a little unusual, but recently things have become very strange. And I am having a difficult time understanding it all. Let's begin with some background. I have always had a good relationship with my dad, Edward. He's the kind of person who is quiet and direct and only says what he means. My mom passed away about a decade ago, and although it was difficult for us, we supported each other. We've been a unit since then. Approximately 3 years ago, my dad met Ashley. She's the typical person who is charming on the outside, always very courteous, always cheerful. Initially, I was glad. For him, he seemed more cheerful with a more positive outlook. However, as time passed, I began to notice minor things that seemed wrong. For instance, Ashley always had a method of changing conversations. To indirectly emphasize how much she had done for my dad, she would make statements like, "I am just so thankful Edward has someone who can actually look after him now." It was never blatantly unkind, but it felt almost staged. Initially, I assumed it was not a problem, but now perhaps I should have been more observant. It started about a month ago when my dad asked me the most peculiar question on the phone. He was staring right at me at the dinner table and asked, "Justin, are you mad at me?" I was completely surprised by this. "Why would I be upset with you?" I questioned, genuinely perplexed. He avoided making eye contact, just shrugging in response. I felt like he might have thought I was mad about something. He just seemed to think he might not have been doing enough for me recently. This was so unlike him. My father's not one to seek out confirmation or ever discuss feelings unless something was actually on his mind. I responded, reassuring him that he didn't have to worry about anything, telling him that everything was okay between us. Despite my response, it left me feeling a bit strange. Over the next few weeks, this oddness got worse. My dad started canceling our regular Saturday lunches, explaining that he was busy or that Ashley had arranged something. He began steering clear of subjects we usually talked about without any problems, like the family property. The real warning sign emerged when I accidentally heard Ashley and him talking in the kitchen one night. It wasn't like I was trying to listen in, but her voice traveled. She was saying something along the lines of, Justin doesn't seem to appreciate you, Edward." It was as if he was just taking me for granted. "Maybe he doesn't need you as much as you think he does." What? I felt shocked and confused. Where was this coming from? I almost walked right in that second, but I restrained myself. I figured confronting her in that instant would just make things more tense than they needed to be. The situation drastically changed when my Uncle Donald, my father's older brother, randomly called me one day. Donald's not one for rumors, so when he said, "I heard something that doesn't seem right to me," I realized this was a really big deal. He'd mentioned to me that our mutual friend had said my father intended to hand over our ancestral property, the land that had been in our family for ages, to Ashley's 2 children. Ashley has 2 children from a previous relationship, Amy and Justin, another person named Justin. Honestly, I don't have any issue with them, but we aren't exactly tight. They haven't been around much until lately, when they've randomly started showing up at all the family gatherings like they'd been part of the family forever. The thought of my dad giving away the estate really hit me hard. That land isn't just worth a lot of money, it symbolizes our family's story. Both my parents dedicated their whole lives to keeping that land. And now he was considering giving it away. I knew I had to do something. I needed information, so I decided to act. I went to see my dad the following day, wanting to have a straightforward talk. I approached the subject as carefully as I could, mentioning something along the lines of, "Hey Dad, I've heard a few things about the estate. Are you planning on making any changes to it?" His expression was difficult to interpret. He took a moment before responding, saying, "Ashley and I have been talking about stuff, but nothing's finalized." I kept pushing a bit, but he changed the subject abruptly, saying, "Justin, you've always been self-reliant. You don't need to concern yourself with this." Self-reliant? Certainly, I've made my own life, but that doesn't mean I don't have a deep interest in my family's past. The discussion just left me feeling more baffled than ever. I'm more exasperated than ever before. Ashley's ultimate plan is a mystery, but this entire situation seems somehow wrong. My father is behaving totally unlike himself, and I can't get rid of the notion that Ashley is the cause. I'm at a loss as to how to address this without making the situation even more unpleasant. Part of me wants to challenge Ashley straight on, but I'm also hesitant to push my dad away. Right now, I'm going to investigate further and try to figure out the truth of what's occurring. I'm adding a follow-up. Hey, Reddit users. I wasn't anticipating my previous post becoming so popular, but I'm truly grateful for all the suggestions and different viewpoints. I've been living with this chaotic situation for weeks now, and things have become even stranger. I didn't intend to provide an update at this point, but after everything I've unearthed, I feel I need to share. Let me put it this way. If I had any reservations that Ashley was controlling my father, they're completely gone now. What I've learned so far feels like just the surface, and I'm really scared of what's below. It all began with a text from Ashley that I wasn't anticipating. It was a regular Tuesday evening, and I was getting ready to go to sleep when my phone vibrated. The message said, "Justin, I realize things have been difficult, but I hope you can trust your father and me to make the best choices. We're a family now." It didn't feel right to me. Initially, I don't have Ashley's phone number stored, so seeing her name appear out of nowhere was unsettling. Secondly, the timing was odd. Why did she send that message now, after I hadn't even talked to my dad or confronted her in ages? I chose not to answer it, but something about that text just wouldn't leave my mind. It seemed like she was trying to get ahead of something, as if she knew I'd eventually uncover the truth. The following day, I showed up at my dad's place without any prior notice. I convinced myself it was just to see how he was doing, however. The real reason was I wanted to look for clues about what Ashley and my dad were up to. As soon as I stepped inside, the house had a weird vibe. It was tidier than usual, almost like it was set up for a show, and there were fresh flowers on the dining room table. Ashley appeared from the kitchen, wearing her usual smile, and greeted me like I was checking into a fancy hotel. "Justin, what a nice surprise. Your dad is out doing some shopping, but you're more than welcome to stick around and have some coffee." I said no, explaining that I'd rather wait for my dad. Her smile wavered for a split second before she gave a little nod and vanished into another room. That's when I spotted something unusual. On the table right next to the flowers was a pile of documents. The one on top was labeled Transfer of Ownership. My dad isn't the sort to leave vital documents lying around, especially regarding the estate. My pulse sped up, but I tried to remain composed. I casually approached the table and picked up a random magazine from the stack, pretending to browse through it. Then I caught a quick look at the second page of the document. It named Ashley's children, Amy and Justin, as the recipients of the estate, before I could. After sorting through what I witnessed, Ashley showed up again. I swiftly put the magazine down and backed away from the table, even though I knew I couldn't just walk away without getting a better look at those documents. As soon as my dad got home, I didn't delay. I inquired about the papers that were sitting on the table. I made an effort to keep my voice even. His face lost its color, and he mumbled something about needing to talk options over with Ashley. I could feel the fury rising inside me, but I understood I had to be careful how I handled this. "Dad, why are Ashley's children named as beneficiaries?" He didn't look at me. "Justin, I've been considering what's equitable. You're self-sufficient. You've built your own life. They haven't had those same advantages." I couldn't believe my ears. "Dad, this isn't about what's right. This is about Ashley taking advantage of you. Can't you see that?" Ashley must have been eavesdropping, because she immediately entered the room. She looked at my dad and declared, "Edward, you don't have to explain your choices to anyone." The nerve of her. I almost let my anger explode at that moment, but I understood she was hoping I'd lose my cool. So I just said, "This isn't finished," and then I left. The following days I devoted to looking into everything I could learn about the estate and the paperwork I'd seen. I even phoned my Uncle Donald, who used to work in law, for his opinion. Then Donald gave me shocking news. The estate includes a protection. It turned out that when my parents, when they first set up the legal document, included a provision to stop this very thing from happening. The inheritance can only be passed along to someone who meets certain requirements, such as keeping it in the family and living there full-time. Essentially, if Ashley's children don't fulfill those conditions, the property automatically comes back to me. Finding this out was somewhat comforting, yet it also sparked more questions within me. Why did my dad never say anything about this provision? Did he even remember it was there? Or was Ashley trying to find a way around it? As I kept putting all the pieces together, a fresh idea began to take shape in my thoughts. What if Ashley knew about the provision but was hoping I wouldn't? Perhaps her plan was to get my dad to sign the documents, expecting I wouldn't challenge it. So I decided to test this theory. The next time I saw my dad, I casually mentioned the provision, acting like I had just found out about it. His response verified everything I suspected. He appeared shocked, yet at the same time relieved, like a heavy burden had been removed. I'm still working through everything, however, one thing is absolutely clear. Ashley's plot isn't as secure as she believes. I'm in a position of strength now, and I won't let her take what belongs to us. For the moment, I'm acting nonchalant. I want Ashley to feel confident, so she'll drop her defenses. However, behind the scenes, I'm meticulously recording everything and collaborating with Donald to ensure the provision is completely secure. I first sensed a problem stirring on a peaceful Sunday. My father sent me a text. "Can we talk? I could use your help, I think." That simple message gave me both comfort and worry. For ages, I'd been recording everything Ashley did, anticipating the proper time to have a conversation with her. But when my dad asked me to get involved, that signaled he was starting to recognize the flaws in Ashley's behavior. I went to his place that afternoon, attempting to keep my composure. Yet the moment I saw my dad, I knew things were much more serious than I'd realized. He appeared completely worn out, like he hadn't rested in ages. "She's been escalating her tactics," he murmured, nearly inaudibly. "She's pushing me to finish." "Everything this week?" I asked him to show me the current paperwork Ashley was having him handle. Indeed, they were the final transfer documents for the estate, and her children were listed as the only people who would receive benefits. But something didn't feel quite right. The required signatures were absent. "She expects me to sign them tomorrow," he explained. "She keeps telling me it's just a mere technicality, but it just doesn't seem right." Score. This was the opportunity I was hopping for. I reminded him of the condition in the deed, the one that would nullify the transfer if certain requirements weren't satisfied. He looked at me, dumbfounded. "She never brought up a word of that," he said. "Do you think she knew?" While I didn't want to make any assumptions, deep inside I had no doubt she did. Ashley wasn't just using people, she was deliberate in her approach. She was hoping my dad wouldn't know about that condition. The following day, my dad invited. I was supposed to be at a meeting with the lawyer to get everything legally settled, which Ashley also attended. She didn't realize I would be present. When she entered the room and saw me, her smile disappeared. "Justin," she said, her voice a little strained. "What are you doing here?" I responded that I was present to confirm everything was done correctly. The lawyer, informed ahead of time about the circumstances, began to review the documentation. As he came to that specific part, Ashley lost her cool. "Which clause are you referring to?" she asked sharply. "That wasn't part of the deal." My father glanced at her, and for the first time in a while I saw understanding in his expression. "You said this was just about what was right," he stated. "You never mentioned my son would lose all this." Ashley attempted to explain it away, claiming the clause was old and didn't matter. However, the lawyer corrected her. "This clause is legally enforceable," he declared. "If the criteria aren't met, the estate goes to Justin automatically." At that, Ashley completely broke down. She started shouting, accusing me of turning my dad against her. She even attempted to make him feel guilty, exclaiming, "After everything I've done for you, is this how you treat me?" However, my dad didn't change his mind. "You misled me, Ashley," he said, his voice calm. "You made me question my own son. That's something I can't overlook." When the meeting concluded, Ashley was utterly crushed. She rushed out, abandoning the incomplete paperwork. I assumed that would be the conclusion, but Ashley had one more tactic left. I initiated a legal challenge to the clause, taking it to court. I argued that it was both unfair and antiquated. I was fortunate that my uncle, Donald, a lawyer who had already retired, got involved once more. Having been the one who helped create the initial document, he knew precisely how to protect it. The legal battle didn't take too much time. The judge sided with us, validating the clause and rejecting Ashley's accusations. However, here, where it gets interesting, during the court process, we realized Ashley had secretly been transferring money from my father's accounts. While it wasn't sufficient to financially ruin him, it did bring up some significant concerns about her motives. Once my father saw the proof, he severed all contact with her. Ashley, along with her children, are no longer around. They moved out of the house a week after the judge's decision. My father's still trying to deal with everything, but we're gradually working on repairing our relationship. Regarding the estate, it's secure for now. My dad has expressed his wish for me to take charge when the moment arrives, and I plan to uphold our family's heritage. Just when I thought all the problems were solved, I received a text from Ashley. It read, "You'll regret this, Justin. You've made an enemy for life." I chose not to reply. She can wallow in her negativity all she likes. At the end of it all, the right thing happened.